I came to learn of Gregory through a friend of mine who turned me on to this website, massoutrage.com. I scoured the website and was immediately just impressed with the boldness of it, you know. I mean, you really hold nothing back. So I guess let's just get right into it. You've worked in dozens and dozens of cases with Child and Family Services. What's your impression of the agency?
Well, the Department of Children and Families is a monstrous agency. It's huge, billion-dollar agency, and it leverages even more billions every year just in this one state, and there's a same kind of an agency in every state in this country. And when you work with the agency long enough and you watch how they do it, you really find out that it's a completely dysfunctional group of people, even though they're dealing with human lives and very, very difficult things in terms of parent-child issues and potential abuse and neglect. And this is an agency that literally can't even keep track of their pieces of paper, never mind deal with the human issues that they're called upon to do. And from what I've seen, they really can't get it done. Their approach that they use is very mechanistic. They treat people typically like machines, like they have no feelings, like they're just a case.
And who wrote these laws? Who wrote this? How was Children and Family Services even established?
Well, actually started back in 1974 on the federal level, and what they did is they passed these very drastic federal laws that imposed this system on every state if they wanted to get a lot of federal cash. And every state immediately bowed and kneeled and took the money and established the system. And the way that the system is set up, its sort of starting point is something called an abuse hotline. And people can call that hotline if they want to report child abuse or neglect. And there's the first point of where the system goes wrong. Cranky neighbors.
Oh, yes.
Angry ex-spouses, busybodies, people who don't really know what abuse or neglect is and are misreporting it. There's probably like an 80% wrong reporting rate. I call it the snitch network, because this is the same kind of a network that people like Fidel Castro set up in Cuba to report your neighbors if they were anti-state, or what we'd see in Russia, you know, back in the time of the Soviet Union. And unfortunately, the same thing sort of happened. In Cuba, if you were reported, a van would pull up and they would disappear. And this is what happens in the Department of Children and Families. A van pulls up and your children disappear. They come in at gunpoint. They rip the children out of the arms, screaming and crying. And typically these cases, if the children even do come back, can take a year or two before that happens. And all this while, of course, the parents are just heartbroken and they wake up every morning.
Yeah, the psychological impact on the children, on the family. And yeah, and this is all without due process, without a jury. I mean, this is just someone can call in and that happens. It's absolutely absurd.
And DCF can make its own decision based on one of these snitch reports to just simply go out without a court order, without a warrant. This is the only thing, except for the Internal Revenue Service. Figure, they can steal your money, they can steal your kids without warrants. The two most important things you have, probably.
Yes, yes.
But they can walk into the house with guns, without a warrant, and go in that house and take these kids. And then the next day, go over to the court and say, hey, judge, we took the kids. Everything all right? Sure, no problem. And in almost every case, the judge is going to validate the action that they took, because the judges are very typically drawn from Department of Children and Families employee ranks. They used to be lawyers for DCF. Now they're a judge involved with one of the parties involved in every case, which really means that in most cases, DCF's way is the way.
It's the way.